Hey guys, how are we doing? Back on another video from Annie News. It is Fate related and it's about Fate Grand Order. Really want to get into this series. I know it's a video game, but it seems to have a lot of characters in the series, and I'm like, what is it? What is Fate Grand Order? Annie News has made the video. What is Fate Grand Order? So I want to check it out. I want to see, and I just need to up the volume slightly. And here we go.
Let me get this clear right off the bat. You do not need to watch any of the other Fate series or play the mobile game prerequisite to watch this anime.
That's cool.
Yes, sure, it would be helpful, but it is by no means needed to understand the story that we'll see in Fate Grand Order Babylonia.
Alright, okay.
Still though, given the complex nature of the Fate universe itself, I figure that whether you're a veteran or a newcomer, a general overview of Fate Grand Order would be helpful.
Yes.
So, what is Fate Grand Order? And, more importantly, how does it relate to the anime Fate Grand Order Babylonia? Well, let's start with the basics. Fate Grand Order is centered around a secret agency known as the Organization for the Preservation of Human Order, Finis Chaldea.
God damn, that's a long name.
Chaldea for short. And
Chaldea,
it operates with
easier.
the sole purpose of preserving humanity's existence for as long as possible. In order to understand how it does this, you first need to understand how Chaldea came to be, because there's a bunch of supernatural phenomenon that comes into play here.
My God.
So, back in 2004, there was an event known as the Fuyuki Holy Grail War. And if you've been around Fate in any capacity, I'm sure you've heard the words Holy Grail War.
Yes.
It's essentially a massive battle royale, involving pairs of what are known as masters and servants. Each pair will compete against each other until only one
Wow, that picture's cool.
At which point the victor will gain ownership over the Holy Grail.
Oh my God, Fate Zero is so good.
An ancient object from the time of Jesus Christ, linking to what's pretty much an infinite source of mana, making it capable of granting the winners a single wish. Thus, why it's such a coveted object. But not just anyone can compete for it.
Nope.
In order to participate in the Holy Grail War, you must first have the potential to be a master. A potential that is most often defined by a person's prowess with magecraft, aka magical science. Meaning that most masters in the war are typically proficient magi who have a strong affinity for magecraft. And it's that affinity that makes them worthy candidates to form a contract with what would be known as their servant. Reason being that servants aren't simply just human.
No.
They're something more, much more. They're mainly what we like to call heroic spirits. Beings given physical form into what can only
Lance's the
as
man
of the highest rank. Now, this is where things get interesting, because heroic spirits are, in my opinion, what makes Fate so fun to watch.
Yeah, the backstory and who they are,
refers to the souls of people who had achieved such legendary feats in their lifetime that their stories became immortalized through legend. They could be gods, mythological heroes, famed beasts, or even mere humans.
Shakespeare, man. Shakespeare's a servant in one bed.
That allows them to be remembered all throughout the unrelenting flow of time. Is capable of ascending to the status of heroic spirit, regardless of whether they actually existed or not. What I mean is that whether they were
just
actually
started watching Unlimited Blade, which she's loving it.
Produced in myth, so long as people believe they existed, they can become a heroic spirit.
Unlimited Blade, which is amazing.
I'm sure you're all familiar with Saber. This is King Arthur, a true historical figure whose role in the defense of Britain against the Saxon invasion.
Oh God, please don't tell us who Archer is. Please don't.
Legends and tales that are still told today. On the other hand, this is Frankenstein.
Yeah, Frankenstein.
A character brought to life through the famed novel Frankenstein by Mary Shelley.
Yep.
And just like her,
and she's amazing.
There are over 200 servants from across time and space that exist within the Fate universe, each with their own unique powers and abilities.
Oh
but
my God.
only a select few we've actually seen battle it out in the Holy Grail War. So, now knowing this, what we have is a battle royale between pairs of masters and servants for the wish-granting artifact of the Holy Grail.
But Grand Order, does that just explode?
In the year 2004, a Holy Grail War began in the small city known as Fuyuki. In the Fate Grand Order timeline, the winner of this war was a man named Barisbury Animisphère.
Oh, so someone that wasn't actually involved in the original anime,
he wished for prosperity. This gave him all the resources that he needed in order to build the organization that we now know as Chaldea.
Timeline.
Something Barisbury knew humanity needed, since somehow he was warned that humanity's existence was nearing its end.
I hate this.
So, with
Fate's
his
so
now
hard to
copious amounts
follow.
of assets, he was able to make Chaldea into an international organization that would flourish over time.
Right.
It became a research facility where the world's leading scientists
Zawada!
and magi would work together to make leaps and bounds towards the advancement of magecraft and science. Eventually leading to
Anytime
the creation
anyone
of
says the
technology that
world.
would allow them to observe both the past and the future. This
So
due to
time.
a combination of projects that are each a technological feat in their own right. But rather than explain how each of them work, it's probably best that you just know what each do.
Right.
First we have Chaldeus, not to be confused with the name of the organization, Chaldea. There's a difference.
Oh my god.
Chaldeus is a perfectly
I hate stuff
accurate
like that.
miniature replica of planet Earth that represents the status of the world as it is in both the past and the future. However, that alone isn't enough
was that?
to efficiently observe the different periods of time. That's where the Shiba lens comes in. This allows for a detailed observation of the past and future statuses displayed on Chaldeus. Then there's a separate invention called Laplace that works in tandem with the Shiba lens
These names
to collect records
need to be...
related to those statuses.
No, everything
So
sounds
it's
far
best
too
to think
similar.
of
We
it
got
like
Shibas
this.
and we got Shiba
Chaldeus
lens.
displays
No.
the state of the world across all eras, past or present. The Shiba lens can look into any single one of them and collect more data, while Laplace can directly monitor them through a real-time link between the present and the specified time period.
Right.
Now, you're probably wondering why the ability to monitor the past isn't needed to save the future.
Yeah.
Well, that's because of the nature of the mass extinction events that are threatening humanity. They're known as singularities, events that have happened in the past but at the same time threaten the future. Reason being that a
Right.
singularity is a region that Chaldeus is unable to observe, meaning it's an event in history that shouldn't exist in the first place. A disruption in the true historical
is 'cause
timeline
of
that
time
causes disturbances
changing,
and
right.
fluctuations in the flow of time that spread throughout history like a wave. If the disruption is significant enough, the shift in the true historical timeline will result in the collapse of human history
So
as a
they
whole.
need to go back and
Consider it like a
change that.
butterfly effect that inevitably leads to human extinction. But how do these disruptions happen?
Yeah, what the...
Well, without going too much into spoilers, a holy grail has been purposefully spawned into a key historical time period and given to a specific individual who is likely to cause as big of a negative disruption to history as possible. Not only that, but this grail also allows for servants to be summoned without the support of a master.
What?
Normally, a master would be needed for a servant to maintain
Of
their
course,
existence in
the
world.
mana in that.
But with a grail from a singularity, various servants can be brought into the era without either the summoning ritual or the master.
And they don't need
It's
the
these
the
servants
mana
that
reserves
make the
and that. That's
singularities
mad.
more interesting, because they will often choose a side and play a role in either disrupting the grand order of human history or
What?
working
Regardless of
towards
having a master or
So,
not.
where does Chaldea fit into all of this?
Huh.
Well, Chaldeus, the model of the world that represents its state in both the past and the future, in combination with the Shiba lens, can pinpoint the exact times in history when a singularity has taken place. If Chaldeus no longer displays the light of the world, that means that humanity's existence is no longer secured and a singularity has occurred.
Oh.
Then, using the Shiba lens, they can
They
detect
know where
when
to
and
go,
where that singularity
and
has appeared,
that's-
while
right,
at the
okay.
same time determine when humanity's extinction
That's kinda
will
cool.
happen. So, what we have are destabilizing events to the grand order of human history and a means to detect them. The next step would then be to prevent these disruptions from happening. But you're probably wondering that if it's something that's taken place in the past, then hasn't it technically
Already happened, yeah.
Well, yes, but it can still be prevented. Such a massive shift in the true timeline of human history
Time
is something
travel
that isn't
is
so
so
easily integrated into
stupid.
the world. What I mean by that is that it takes a significant amount of time and magical energy to fully cement the changes from a singularity to the true historical
Of
timeline.
course it
That's where
does.
Chaldea can now step in to prevent the singularity from ever happening. By using what's essentially time travel, Chaldea can project the spirit of a living human to the past. It's through a process known as ray shifting, a
Of
term that you'll
course.
hear now and again throughout the series. The process also involves giving that person's spirit a physical form so that they can interact with the people and environment around them. This gives the person who is sent back to the past the ability to directly intervene with historical events. So, in the event of a singularity, Chaldea would ray shift a master to where and when it happens. Upon arrival, they will proceed to do everything in their power to prevent the historical anomaly from taking place.
Okay.
This can be done through one of two ways. Eliminate any and all disruptions that are a direct cause of the singularity,
Kill.
or either retrieve or destroy the grail that is supporting the singularity.
So win the Grail War, or just
remember,
get rid of it.
The whole reason the singularity is taking place is because a grail is providing copious amounts of magical energy to disrupt history. Though sometimes in very extreme cases, both goals may need to be accomplished. Now, a master is certainly not powerful enough to take on the enemies within the
Of course, you can't have a master fight a servant.
Which is why, under normal circumstances, a master would
You've
typically
seen
form a
it.
contract with an existing servant, bring their own servant from a summoning ritual done at Chaldea, or summon their own.
Honestly, though,
master
it's
from
hardly
singularity.
ever a servant
Bringing us
fights.
back to when I mentioned that
A master
servants
fights a
would often
servant,
choose
that is-
sides as to
no.
whether they wanted to fight for humanity.
It's a big no-no.
So, pretty much, it's this team of master and servant that would fight together to eliminate any rogue servants, as well as locate the source of the disruptions. And this process actually worked well for a while. The master teams that were sent to battle the singularities proved to be quite competent at their jobs. No one singularity was too tough for them to handle.
I mean, if they
but
can...
even after beating singularity after
that
singularity,
Lancer?
for some reason,
Oh man, I need to
extinction
watch
of
Grand
humanity
Order,
was
man,
still
because it
imminent.
just like it seems like
They
they
were
just
unable to bring back the
bring
light of
everyone
Chaldeans
into
that
it.
ensured humanity's survival. Chaldea had to bolster their ranks. They began to recruit more masters.
Boy, you need to
eventually
understand
gaining
as
a
well. There's
total of
different
48.
lancers.
Most were either prestigious mages from famous bloodlines, or magi in training trying to make a name for themselves. These were hand-picked individuals. However, there were also 10 slots available to the public for anyone to apply to, one of which was taken by our protagonist, Ritsuka Fujimaru, boasting absolutely zero skills in magecraft or combat whatsoever. He is simply an average person. That's not to say that he can't use magecraft, though. It's just he's untrained and doesn't know how to. Not only that, but he's also completely unfamiliar with any of the concepts that I just spent the last 10 minutes talking about. Holy Grail Wars, Servants, the Grand Order, race shifting. These are all things that he knows nothing about.
So
Yet,
why would
despite
he get...
all of this, he would soon prove to be one of humanity's greatest assets, and a key member within the Chaldea organization, a role befitting our main character. So, why do we follow this average master when there are 47 other better candidates?
Yeah,
well,
why?
That's a question that brings us to the very beginning of the story that is Fate Grand Order.
Right.
Assuming that you haven't seen the prologue anime adaptation from 2016 called First Order,
No.
we find Ritsuka unconscious
It's
in
in
the
my
halls of
queue
Chaldea
on
as he had been
Crunchyroll.
sleepwalking after not properly waking up from an introductory battle simulation. Here he is found by Mashu and her friend Fo. They quickly become acquainted, and she basically explains what Chaldea does and how it functions as an organization. She then takes him to the location of the orientation speech being given by the current director, Olga.
I find it
Maria
annoying
Mendes,
that we get
which
the episode
Ritsuka
0 on
inevitably
Crunchyroll as well,
falls
but then the
asleep
rest of
in
the
and
series is on
out.
Funimation.
With
Like,
nothing else
why
to do,
even tease me
he's
with
guided
that?
to his
Why
room where
tease
he
me
comes
with that?
across the head doctor, Ramani Arkama.
Why would they do that,
Shortly
babe?
after their introductions, though,
Put
a loud
episode
explosion
0 on
could be heard
Crunchyroll
from
and then the rest
direction
on
of the command
Funimation.
room. As it would turn out, a explosion
don't
had
care
taken
about
place
No,
right
they don't
in the
care about
heart
me
of
at
where the
all.
Chaldea crew was about to begin the race-shifting process for the other 47 masters to the singularity known as Singularity F, a distorted version of the Fuyuki Holy Grail War that became unobservable by Chaldeans, thus flagging it as the source of the path towards human extinction. Ritsuka rushes down to the central area, where he sees all the other masters scattered across the rubble while in their Spiritron chassis, aka coffins, a
Right.
device used to significantly improve the odds of success during the race-shifting process. In the distance, he spots Mashu pinned under a pile of rubble.
Oh no.
Despite knowing that attempting to save her would be futile, he tries anyway, until eventually realizing that it didn't matter since they were trapped in the room. Knowing that there was nothing left that he could do, he simply accepts his fate and waits alongside Masha as the rest of the room crumbles around him,
Whoa.
taking Masha's hand, as the only thing he could give her now was a little bit of comfort.
Oh.
Unbeknownst to him, though, the race shift process was still ongoing.
Oh.
And given that Ritsuka was the only valid master left in the room, both he and Mashu were race shifted to 2004,
Oh,
right in the middle
wow,
of
that's
Singularity
cool.
F. Except Mashu was a little bit different here. Now she was a fully fledged demi-servant.
Cool.
A fusion between a heroic spirit and a human body.
Oh.
You see, Masha had been at Chaldea for a long time. In fact, she was a human experiment there. A child created from modified DNA in order to become a vessel
Oh
for a
my
heroic
god, there's
spirit.
always something really
Countless
freaking
experiments
weird
were
going
run
on with someone.
numerous desire babies like her in an attempt to create a successful fusion between a heroic spirit and a human. But all except for her ended up just failing. Finally, in the year 2010, when Masha was just 10 years old, the demi-servant experiment was a success. Chaldea had successfully summoned a heroic spirit and binded it to Masha. But something was wrong. The heroic spirit they summoned never actually awoke. As it would turn out, Masha had been fused with the spirit of the Knight of the Round Table known as Galahad. And when
Cool.
Galahad saw that Chaldea was performing these experiments on an innocent girl, he denounced their actions and went into a
Oh, and
state
got
of
pissed
absence,
off and it's like, how
something
dare you
akin
do
to
that? That's so
hibernation, if you
cool.
will. The reason he didn't just outright release his spirit from the world is because he came to realize that Mashu would die from it. He saw no other choice but to passively reside within Mashu,
Just
but
stay
never
there.
actually awaken.
Wow.
At least until Mashu's life was in danger. As she was dying while pinned under the rubble, Galahad presented himself to her, and he formed a contract allowing Mashu to become the
that's
Master
cool.
that we see now. From this, Mashu gained not only his fighting experience and skills, but also his noble phantasm.
That's
which,
class.
in case you didn't know, is pretty much every servant's ultimate ability.
Yeah, it is.
Though, after the contract was made, Galahad's existence seemed to fade away.
No,
So
but
now
existed
we have
within
a master
her.
and
That's
servant
class.
pair who find
Oh.
themselves in a singularity.
So that's why she's
Given
a
that all
bride.
the other
So
masters were
she
incapacitated,
kind of becomes his.
That meant that it was solely
servant,
up to Ritsuka
maybe?
and Mashu to defeat whatever was causing singularity.
That's cool.
Luckily, he was able to get guidance from Chaldea, since Laplace also gives them the ability to communicate in real time across eras.
This is awesome.
Even the director herself was ray-shifted alongside them. But rather than focus on the specifics of this singularity, all you pretty much need to know is that Ritsuka and Mashu successfully eliminated the source of the distortion.
Saber.
This mission was known as the First Order. And if you want to know the rest of the details behind it, you can actually watch the anime version of it
First
via
Order.
the special episode called Fate Grand Order First Order, which I highly recommend since
I
it puts
believe it's
together
on
everything that I've been
Netflix.
talking about into a nicely condensed story.
I
But
might
it's
check it
after
out.
the events of this initial threat that Ritsuka and Mashu return to find that there are 7 more singularities flagged by Chaldeus, each of which threaten the very foundations of humanity.
Time travel
and
is
Ritsuka
so
and Mashu are in charge
weird.
of handling all of them. Now, that's where Fate Grand Order Babylonia comes in.
Right.
This anime that's airing this season is the 7th singularity, and it will follow Ritsuka and Mashu as they work together to save mankind once and for all. You see, if you watched episode 0 that came out a few months ago, towards the end of it, there was a compilation of scenes that showed snippets from each of the previous 6 singularities. A fantastic
Right.
scene if you're familiar with the series as a whole. But what this means is that Ritsuka and Mashu have already taken care of 6 of the 7 singularities targeting
Right,
humanity.
okay, right.
And this is the final one that they need to get rid of.
And
in
that's what
order
the
to
anime
bring
is
human
showing, that's
history
cool.
back to its true order, thus saving humanity from extinction. And that's pretty much what you need to know to really understand what's going on in the show. Overall, though, if you want to get the most out of this anime, just watch Fate Grand Order First Order, then Episode 0 of Babylonia right after. After that, you should have a pretty good idea of where
Because
things
First
are and
Order's a
why
bit
things
long,
are
isn't it,
happening.
from what I
Anyway,
understand?
I
Then,
hope this
like,
explanation wasn't too
Zero's
confusing. The
not
Fate
episode.
universe isn't really something that can be so easily summarized, but I gave it my best shot anyway. Now, before I go, I'd
Well
like
done
to thank
in
Pedro,
attempting all that,
Absolute
Jesus.
Zero, Alpha Assassin, Deveronia, and Nikox for helping out with the research. So, if you did like this Fate content, though, following this up will be a bunch of servant spotlights for the ones that we see in Babylonia.
Class.
Expect a Caster Gilgamesh video coming out soon.
Nice.
But until then, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So, until next time,
Ciao. Class. I'm so tempted to check it out, babe. I'm really tempted to check it out.
What
But
are you checking out? I wasn't listening.
Grand Order.
Oh.
But I just don't have the time. I have so much stuff going on. Because episode 0 is on Crunchyroll, but there was the thing on Netflix as well, which is like an hour long. If I have the time, I'll check them out. I loved Unlimited Playworks and Fate Zero that much that, like, as soon as I try and branch out into something that isn't like a continuation, not really that interested. Which is why you should stick with Unlimited Playworks and watch Zero afterwards.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Good. And until then, thank you guys very much for watching. What did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe and already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what you want to discuss in videos. That was English. And I'll see you guys. You saw you guys next time. Bye.
Yeah, you're busy with One Piece at the moment, aren't you? How far into it are you, Dan?